How do you write a good aim? How do you write your dissertation title based on your aim? In this video, you are going to learn the answer to these two questions. I'll start by explaining the 3 steps that you can follow in order to write a better aim. Next, I'll go through a real example that applies the 3 steps to writing a good aim. And along the way, I'll provide 2 tips to help you write a better aim. And I'll finalize by explaining how you can use the aim to write your title. The aim is perhaps the most important statement that you will write in your dissertation. It's the lighthouse that guides everything you do. If anything, it provides the boundaries to what you should do and also to what you should not do, because you should not include anything that does not help to answer the aim. So what can you do to write a good aim? Answering this question requires fulfilling an assumption and then following 3 steps. The assumption is that you have already defined the major components of your research, notably the theory-related ones, such as process and content. We also need context, but that's usually easier for students to identify, so I'm emphasizing the theory-related ones because without those ones, you can't apply this tip. Once you've got all the main parts of your research established, you need to write down the keywords you are going to use when trying to write your aim statement. The next step involves creating a first sentence that links all the elements. And once you created that first sentence, it's usually not good enough. It's just a starting point. We can then rewrite the sentence, and I've got 2 tips that will help you to rewrite the initial sentence. The 2 keywords that we are going to use in our aim are marketing appeals and FOMO emotions. And once the student identified these 2 areas, I challenged him to come up with a first aim statement, and this was what he came up with. To study if marketing appeals can create FOMO emotions. This is a good first sentence, but there are opportunities to improve it. And we can improve the sentence by considering 2 opportunities. The first one is challenging the order of the words. As it is, we have marketing appeals before FOMO emotions. What about if we swap the order? If we have FOMO emotions before marketing appeals? I asked the student to create a sentence based on this order. And this is what he came up with: to examine if FOMO emotions can be created by marketing appeals. Upon further discussion, we concluded that it wasn't a better option, and therefore the student continued working with the first attempt, which includes marketing appeals before FOMO emotions. And at this stage, the student was challenged to apply tip number 2, which is challenging specific words. Initially, 2 words were challenged. One is actually there, the other one is missing. The one that is there is the word if. If is a very absolute word. When you ask a question using if, it means yes or no. The answers, the possible answers are yes or no. And it wasn't desirable to ask the question in such a strict way. And the second one is the absence of a word. In this instance, the word FOMO when referring to marketing appeals. So the student replaced the word if because it was not a good choice and added the word FOMO when referring to marketing appeals. And this is how the statement read after making these changes: to examine the extent to which FOMO marketing appeals can create FOMO emotions. This is better, but again, upon further discussion, we identified opportunities to establish the relationship between the input, marketing appeals, and output, FOMO emotions, in a more specific way. And we did it by asking the question, what's the word that can be used to refer that something is good at achieving the objective? And the word is effectiveness. I actually invited the student to seek a definition of effectiveness, and this is what he found: the degree to which something is successful in producing a desired result. And this matches what the student was doing well, because in the end, the student was looking at how something, FOMO marketing appeals, are good in producing a desired result. In this instance, FOMO emotions. So I asked the student to actually write a version of the aim using this statement. And this is what he wrote. The degree to which FOMO marketing appeals are effective rather than successful, the word effective was a good one to retain, in creating FOMO emotions. And from here, he wrote the aim. The aim of the research is to examine the extent to which FOMO marketing appeals are effective in creating FOMO emotions. This is a much better aim when compared to the first one that was produced and to the previous one as well. But there are still a couple of opportunities to improve the statement further. These changes are very specific to this dissertation, but I want to demonstrate how you improve your aim statement step by step. So we have at the moment to examine the extent to which FOMO marketing appeals are effective in creating FOMO emotions. Here there was a change in one of the words, which is the word creating. Actually, when we discussed the topic in more detail, marketing appeals, they don't create FOMO, or they don't necessarily create FOMO, because sometimes people are already feeling FOMO, and what marketing appeals do is to heighten it, to increase the level of FOMO. So one change was to replace the word creating with the word heightening. The other one was to add the word comparison. And this was because what the student was doing was to compare how successful, how effective were different marketing appeals. He had 4 or 5 different types of marketing appeals, and how effective they were in creating FOMO. So adding the word comparison was warranted in this case. And this is how the sentence was written in order to incorporate those 2 changes, to compare the effectiveness of FOMO marketing appeals on heightening FOMO emotions. And this was basically it. Once the student arrived at his statement, we didn't identify any other areas for improvement. And more importantly, it was felt that the statement reflected what the student was doing very well. So that was the end of the journey. Before I explain how you can write your title based on your aim, I invite you to like the video. If you're still watching at this stage, I assume it's because you're enjoying it. And I also invite you to explore the Virtual Tutor online resource, which is a video book-based resource which contains a lot of tips and tools to help you write a better dissertation. The detail is in the description below. So how do you move to writing your title once you've defined your aim? In order to do this, you should answer a question. What is the difference between the aim and the title? So we are starting with the aim and we want to write our title based on it. What is the difference between the 2? This is a question that I often ask to my students, and they get very intrigued. And interestingly, they try to find differences because the way the question is written implies that there are differences. In fact, there are no substantive differences between the 2. As I usually say, the aim is the title and the title is the aim. The 2 are one entity, one statement. What we have to do is to adapt ever so slightly the way we write the statement because of the 2 types of statements. One is a clear statement, the other one is a statement of action. So let's see how we can turn our aim, which we are happy with, into the title of the dissertation. The aim is to compare the effectiveness of FOMO marketing appeals on heightening FOMO emotions. And how do we transform this into our title? The title could be a comparison of the effectiveness of FOMO marketing appeals on heightening FOMO emotions. Basically, we replace to compare with a comparison of. Everything else is the same. And therefore, the theory that the aim is the title and the title is the aim is confirmed by this example. So when you are trying to write your aim, it's important to bear in mind the following. Writing the final version of the aim takes time, and it is achieved through attempts and playing with the words. It's often the case that students think that other students who wrote good titles, they came up with those titles straight away. No. In most cases, if not all cases, the final title that reads very well was subjected to many changes over time in order to fine-tune what the research is about, and also to make sure that it communicates what the research is about in the best possible way. The other lesson that I hope you've learned from this video is that it's important to explore different ways of writing the title. There's no one way, I guess. There are different ways that we can use, but certainly there are ways that are better than others. And it's important that we experiment with different ways of writing the title so that we are sure that the title that we arrive at is the best one. In any case, whatever you do, it is important that your title is short, is concise, and faithful to the research. It reflects exactly what the research is about. As I said at the beginning of this video, writing your aim statement, and by default your title statement, is perhaps one of the most important tasks you will do in your dissertation. Therefore, it's not surprising that I've spent a considerable amount of time developing tips and tools to help my students write better aim and title statements. One of those videos covered 6 issues to avoid when writing your dissertation title, and you can find the link to the video here. That's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the next video.